Hey everyone, it's Brooke, and I'm here today to do a video about some books that I've read that I feel like fell through the cracks a little bit. I have taken one or two breaks from filming videos over the past 4 years, and some of the books I've read I don't think I've talked about because I wasn't filming at the time, and just because I wasn't filming doesn't mean I wasn't reading really great things. So I have chosen 5 books to talk to you about today. I don't think I've mentioned them on my channel. I think one of them I may have, but I'm just gonna throw some more attention at it and just go through some things I've loved that maybe you guys haven't heard of and that haven't been on my channel at least. So the first book I think is a good pick with the summer months approaching, beach weather, at least in the northern hemisphere, and a lot of vacation times and people going on holiday and just wanting something maybe relaxing to read by the pool. I think I have talked about this book on my channel. I read it a few years ago, but whatever. So this is a book I normally would not have picked up, but I got it at Goodwill, or charity shop, for like $1, and I just, on a whim, read it. It's by a pretty famous author, but again, once you see the cover and you kind of understand that I can be a snob when it comes to women's fiction, and I shouldn't be because there are some books I really enjoy, it's one of those books. It falls into that category, and it's also a book I think you can read by the pool, but it has some real heft to it. It's really doing, I think it does the women in its story justice, and it really has a lot to say, and there are really great depictions of motherhood and female familial relationships especially. And that is Maine by J. Courtney Sullivan. I mean, look at the cover. I don't know who designs these things, but it looks like, oh, we're just gonna lounge on the beach and read something kind of gossipy. This book is so much more than that, and I have read J. Courtney Sullivan books that I did not like, but this one really, really touched me, and I still think about it, which is why it's in this video. It is about, I think, 3 generations of women, and then they are coming together at a beach house for the summer, and you delve into their pasts, and you see each woman, it's alternating perspectives, so you see each woman from one of their family members' perspectives, and you can just see how we never really truly know people, even if we're related to them. And I love a story that plays with perspective in that way, and I think this does it marvelously. And I also think this, just in its varied account of motherhood and daughterhood, is really something worth reading, even if you don't typically read things like this. So the next is a novel by one of my favorite authors. Probably, I don't know, I haven't read enough to say she's my like current favorite author, but I definitely have liked the 2 books from her I've read, and she is super famous at this point. But this is The Singer's Gun by Emily St. John Mandel. I urge you, if you liked Station 11, to go read her backlist. She has several novels that came out prior to Station 11, and I think this might be her first, I don't remember, but you can really see her evolution as a writer, because this might not be as accomplished as Station 11, but I think you can still see how Station 11 can grow out of a book like this, and it was still leaps better than a lot of fiction I read these days. She does that great thing where she like writes literary fiction but throws in genre elements, and she plays with the genres that she writes. She never really writes the same one twice, and I think in a way, I would sort of compare her to Colson Whitehead in that respect. They both do that, where each novel can feel really different, but you can see the same writer, and you know, in all the books. So, yeah, this one is like a spellbinding novel of international crime, false identities, the depths and limits of family ties, and the often confusing bonds of love. The Singer's Gun explores the dangerous territory between one's moral compass and the heart's desire. So this book is that. It's like crime noir. It's got secrets and family relationships and romantic relationships, but it's fairly dark. It's really weird. Like, there are some really bizarre scenes. There's just some scenes like in an office building that reminded me a lot of what was it? Beautiful Bureaucrat? What is that book called by Helen Phillips? You guys know what I'm talking about. Is it The Beautiful Bureaucrat? You know what I'm talking about. It really did remind me of that. It's so strange in the most lovely of ways. She's such a talent at crafting a story. And if you like well-crafted stories with a tint of the bizarre that delve into relationships and have you aching to turn the pages, but also really lovely writing, Emily St. John Mandel, she's fantastic. Another book that I'm going to show you guys is something I finished in my sort of slumpy time at the end of last year. So I took a long time to read this, not because of the book, because of me, and I really loved it. If you like female friendship relationships that tends towards the darker side of things, you know, where people are really just going through some struggles, some deep struggles, and to see how that shapes a friendship through high school, from high school through like early adulthood into motherhood and these kinds of things. I think this book does a superb job, and it's so short, but it does so much in its pages. And this is The Girls from Corona Del Mar by Ruby Thorpe. She had a new book come out last year, which I'm excited to read when it comes out in paperback. But this, first off the cover, it's gorgeous. And it's just these two girls and who they were in high school and who they become afterwards and who they become to each other afterwards. And just, I've seen some criticism that there's a lot piled on to, especially one of the girls, that like no one has a life that is that hard. And I have a really good best friend who I've been best friends with since 8th grade, not 8th grade, since I was 8. And we follow each other in our whole life. She's really the only one from high school or just like my hometown that I still talk to. We're still very, very good friends. And if I wrote down the shit that has happened to her in the past few years, you would think too much had been piled on and I'm making it up. But it's happened, and it has affected our relationship. For instance, 2 weeks ago her dad died, which is just terrible. And that does shape these huge emotional things, really shape who we are and who we are in our friendships, and especially I think how women relate to each other, because I think, I don't want to get into too much about like women, but you know, this is a really good book. It's a really great character study of friendship, and I really liked it. I think it's another one that you could read by the pool, but really has some real literary merit to it. So pick it up. And then a book that I think I'm not going to talk too much about. I just wanted to highlight it because everyone really loved The Unseen World by Liz Moore last year, which is a book I pre-ordered and read as soon as it came out because I read her first book. I don't think it's her first book. I think it's her second, but her first like known book. I can't get my hands on the very first one. This is Heft by Liz Moore. I don't remember where I first heard this because I read it when it first came out. I think it might have been Books on the Nightstand's podcast. That's what rings the bell, I think. And I think they told me to read it on audio, which is, I listened to it on audio. And it's a great audiobook if you're looking for one. If you like Unseen World, this is a little less accomplished than that. You know, which is not odd or to be unexpected since this came first. But the way she gets characters and the way she does voice is just, she's super great at it. And this is about a man named Arthur Opp, who he is severely overweight and he hasn't left his Brooklyn home in decades, and the relationship he sort of makes with he's like a retired English professor, I think. Anyways, he has a former student, Charlene, and she has a son named Kel, and the way those three and the relationship between those three comes and grows, and the way they connect and all that. I mean, she does these things with characters that you don't necessarily expect to love or to even want to read about, and she makes you they don't leave you. Arthur Opp has not left me. Kel has not left me. Charlene has not left me. Like, they're just fantastic, and I think that The Unseen World is the same thing. I mean, you know, David Nada may not ever leave me. So she just does people and characters so well. And then finally, I'm not going to harp on it too much. You guys, it's been, everyone knows about this book, but I did read it at the end of last year, and he is one of my favorite authors. So I did want to mention The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Now, I you guys, if you know anything about me, you know that Zone 1 was one of my favorite books of 2000, whenever I read it, 2014, 2015. I thought it was just a masterpiece, and I know a lot of people hate it because it's slow and it's boring, and it's like, what do they call it? Sort of, existential crisis during a zombie outbreak. It's very like emotional, like internal novel. It's slow. It's great. I loved it so much. This, like I said about St. John Mandel when I was comparing her to him, he takes different genres and he just puts his own spin on them, and so all his books are very different. This is no different. This is historical fiction. You guys know what it's about, with Cora being a runaway slave and just her journey after escaping a plantation in Georgia. It is fantastic. I want to compare it to Zone 1 though, because that's kind of, I'm going to compare Colson Whitehead to himself because I don't feel like it's fair to compare him to anybody else. So I like Zone 1 more than this, but that's just because I prefer slower books. I think this is a little faster paced, and I think for that reason, I think this is a great entry point for people who've never read Colson Whitehead. I think it's a great place to start, even though it's his newest, because I think it's extremely accessible, but also doing all of the really smart, intelligent, amazing things that Colson Whitehead is capable of doing. His story structure in here is amazing. Like Emily St. John Mandel, like I'm comparing them, like they're great story structurers, you know, like they know what they're doing, they're in command of the way they pace and they plot, and you know, the outcome, so they know how to build suspense. I mean, one of my favorite parts of this book is that when Cora escapes, I don't think any of this is spoilers, there is a slave catcher who, and he's awful, right? He's after her, but you very rarely, especially in the first part, see him. You do not see him. He's not really there, but his presence is there. And one of the reasons his presence is able to be there without him actually physically being there is because Colson Whitehead is so good and so smart. And before she runs, Colson Whitehead sets up a scene where you see the brutality of the slave catcher who's going to be coming after her. And that is when violence to me matters, because you have shown me something about a character that impacts the rest of the story in such a minimal way. And it's like the perfect example of showing versus telling. And so his presence just looms in the background. And it's just, it was heart-pounding, you know, worrying for Cora because this terrible, gross, awful human being is after her. And it was just really good. So yes, I loved it. So there you go. There are some books from my shelves that I don't think I've given enough due to, and I wanted to. So I will see you guys next video. Bye.